started playing guitar when I was 10. I got my first guitar when I was 10. I got a paper route. You got to be 10 in Iowa to get a paper route, and that's like the first job you can have where you can actually earn your own money. So I got a paper route and delivered papers every morning and shit, and saved up my $99.99, and went and got my little Hohner Telly off of layaway at Schmidt Music, I think it was called. Schmidt Music in Valley West Mall. I just tried to figure stuff out. You know, it's like you spend a while just sort of, what the hell's this? You dink around, you find, you experiment and get things to come out. The first thing you'd start picking out, just like little melodies of things. Like, like Dancing with Myself. You're 10 and that's easy. You go, hey, look, I'm playing stuff I've heard before. There's a few notes, I've heard it, and so that's kind of inspiring. And then you learn a couple more, just dicking around figuring things out. And I don't suggest that for everybody. I mean, lessons are great for lots of people. I think both at the same time are great. Your own experimentation and lessons combined are probably the way to do it. So I spent a lot of years sitting in my room just figuring stuff out. It's just like come up with my own way. So it's like I have my own understanding of the instrument. When you kind of do it by yourself, you go through your own process. So like I read guitar magazines and I was around other people. So you pick up stuff from your friends and stuff, and that all becomes part of you. But when you're doing it yourself, you forge your own path. So, I kind of do my thing the way I do it. Before Slipknot, Paul and Andy and I, Andy was our original singer of Slipknot also, we're in a band called Body Pit, death metal band. And they just lost their drummer. They got me in the band, then the drummer and the guitar player left, so we were looking for a drummer. So we were writing songs. Like me, Paul, Donnie, we're working on stuff. And I actually got some things on a 4-track that never really ended up going anywhere. But we'd written them. So we were doing that stuff and we were looking for a drummer. Well, at the same time, our gear is there at where we're practicing, which was our singer's house, Andy. So Clown would come over. Who knew Andy? Clown comes over and starts playing with Paul and Andy, jamming stuff in the basement on the Body Pit stuff. Really, it was where Body Pit practiced. We didn't have a drummer, so there was some downtime, and they started doing that stuff. And then that's kind of how that started. It was Paul was doing it. Paul and Andy were doing it with Clown. I didn't know Clown really. I'd met him before. But, and Paul and Andy and I were in this thing. So it was just, them just dicking around with a friend of theirs. It was separate doing, different music. And then we're like, how are we going to find a technical death metal drummer in Des Moines? Joey. But Joey didn't want to do it. But Joey did want to do the Slipknot stuff with Andy and Paul and Clown. So that's kind of how that went. Our band died. Joey was in a band with our other guitar player on the first record, Josh, and Craig, who did our sampling stuff. Like, they were both the guitar players in Joey's band. So it's kind of like you took me, Paul, Andy, Joey, Josh, and Craig, and threw those bands together and then added Clown. Clown was kind of he was the pivotal thing on that, because basically he had two bands that sort of broke up around him and reformed around, like, that idea. So I guess in a way, it's like two different bands sort of dissolved and turned into the other thing. We never really looked at it like that, because just the chronology and the way it happened, and it wasn't the intent. What's funny though is we went around and broke up another band. We broke up Corey's band by stealing him, and then we eventually needed another guitar player, so we got Jim, from Corey's band to come in. So yeah, it was a very incestuous kind of thing. We basically just went around and screwed up people's bands and shit. The mask thing was always from the start, because the band was never supposed to be a band. It was only just jamming, fucking around. Clown had a mask. He'd put on his clown mask and play percussion, because it was in the basement, just candles. All lights are off. Shitty old basement. A house made probably 1900. Half the thing was like earthen, like it was musty and moldy. And that's why I always said my old carving cabinets just sounded so unique and really cool, because they lived in that wet basement for so long that I guarantee there's like lichens growing on the back side of the speaker cones and shit. Is probably why it actually sounds so sweet and perfect, because just the seasoning of that room. But that's where Body Pit practiced, and it's where Slipknot started. It was weird. There was a radio guy happened to be in town when we played one night, and he just came into the bar we were playing to get some drinks. Just luck of the draw. He just happened to be there, and he was a radio guy who wasn't he wasn't into signing shit. He was just trying to get plays for whatever. And he saw us, and he wasn't the guy, but he's like, "You got to see this shit I just watched." So he started making phone calls, back to the label, and then that kind of got out. People talked, and so somebody else heard something, and they kind of got back to us. And then that went, from being some smaller stuff to eventually some much bigger people got involved. But I'm glad we did what we did. We went down we took the label we thought was going to do the best for us and put us in the best position to be where we are right now, which is not to have a career where you blow up and have one record and you go away, but to to do what you do, and and that's what we're still doing somehow. So it worked out. We would have signed to Interscope or Sony or some kind of just big ass shit at the time. We would have been handled differently. Things would have been different. We wouldn't have, everything had to be the way it is to get where it is right now. You know what I mean? So all those things played a factor. I think if you removed any of those, even those things, because I never even thought about the label much until we're talking about it right now, about that significance. But had we done some of the bigger stuff we were looking at, but we had those meetings. We're like, we'd rather have a home where we don't have to meet a sales thing or else we're kicked off. You know what I mean? Like, we're just like, Sepultura can put out records and they could be really successful, but they don't have to be platinum. They still have a home. We want to have a home. We didn't ever think we were going to sell a lot to people. Why would people like us? But, we just wanted to have a home and do what we do and fucking, and that's it. And it worked out. One thing we could have done differently, masks and coveralls. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda, but sort of what you got's where you are, and anything else is different. So, I don't know, man. You play it as it comes. You take it as it is, and you think on your feet. Shit's dynamic. Every time you formulate a plan, the plan gets blown to shit. So, what I've learned is don't make plans.